The West believed that they were the only one with the power to impose sanctions on their enemies. Well, those days are appearing to be long gone. Russia has now figured out how to play the game, and they are playing the game well. For years, Europe has been extremely dependent on Russian oil. Now, there's nothing wrong with being dependent on Russian oils, but it's a major problem when you are in a proxy war with Russia and you're electing to impose sanctions onto Russia. And to make it worse, you're attempting to put a cap in order to struggle the Russian economy. Well, Russia has said no more. Now they are limiting and they have gone as far as to completely cut off their gas supply to Europe. What has that done? Well, Europe is facing the energy crisis. Energy prices have skyrocketed, and government officials are now debating how to approach this upcoming winter.
And I'm going to rest well.
When it launched in 2011, the Nord Stream 1 was actually expected to reduce potential disruption to European energy supplies. By running the pipeline under the Baltic Sea to Germany, Nord Stream 1, unlike many other European gas pipelines, bypassed Ukraine, in theory giving Russia room to deal with any future spats without leaving Europe in the lurch. When in practice, it made Europe more reliant on Russia and made both the EU and Ukraine more vulnerable to Russian influence. And here's how. In 2021, the EU imported about 155 billion cubic meters of gas from Russia. Now, the Nord Stream 1 alone accounted for 59.2 billion cubic meters. That's about 38%, so almost 40% of the total. And if you look at the EU's total gas consumption, around 400 billion cubic meters, the Nord Stream alone accounted for 14% of all the gas that Europe consumed last year. And the EU says Russia has now cut or partially cut gas supplies to at least a dozen European countries: Poland, Bulgaria, Finland, and the Netherlands, to name a few. In May, it temporarily
forcing the European nations into a recession.
In mid-June, it slashed supplies through the Nord Stream 1 itself to about 40% of what Russia claims were equipment problems. That caused the German government to trigger the second stage of its gas emergency plan.
The pipeline that was carrying gas through Belarus and Poland is now running completely empty. The pipeline even to Ukraine, despite Gazprom is up to 40 BCM of contracted capacity, is only running at about 12, 13 BCM. So until June, Nord Stream was really the only pipeline that was continuing to provide substantial exports to the EU.
Well, this chart shows natural gas flows to Europe from Russia since 2019. That you can see that there are dips for the July maintenance period every year, but never quite like we're seeing today. Flows down about 2/3 in the last 2 months alone. And all this as the EU races to meet its target of filling its gas storage capacity to 80% by November 1st to avoid shortages. It's currently at about 64%, according to Gas Infrastructure Europe. And Germany says right now gas is being taken out of its storage facilities at the same rate it's being injected in. So Nord Stream 1, the biggest single pipeline between Europe and Russia, will be critical if Europe is to avoid those winters.
As you could tell, this is just prophecy going into play. The European nations are going to be forced into a deep recession. And from that recession, we're going to have a lot of chaos, a lot of protests in Europe. From that protest, the European nations are going to turn their back on the U.S., leading to the mother of Babylon turning her back on her daughter when Russia finally comes for the final kill. This is some interesting times we're living in. Read your Bible and get ready for what's to come.